Welcome to This Explainer. If you spend any time scrolling through social media these days, it honestly feels like absolutely everyone is just flush with cash, right? You see the luxury vacations in the Maldives, the brand new luxury cars, the designer wardrobes. It really feels like wealth is everywhere, loudly announcing itself to the world. But here's the crazy paradox we're exploring today. While everyone is spending exhausting amounts of energy trying to look rich on camera, there's a quiet, massive revolution of actual wealth building happening entirely off camera. Today, we're going to break down the exact strategies an entire generation is using to build life-changing wealth in their 30s.
Because here's the thing. There's this stark contrast between the fleeting illusion of wealth and the deep reality of true financial independence. On one side, you've got the superficial social media flex. You know the type, maxing out credit cards to buy things that cost money just to impress strangers they're never going to meet. But on the other side, you have the quiet wealth builder. These individuals are achieving true financial independence silently and purposefully. They aren't constantly upgrading their gadgets, and they certainly aren't chasing the latest status symbols. They're grounded, they're focused, and they are playing a completely different game, a game most people never even notice is happening right next door.
And you know what the absolute most fascinating part of this whole quiet revolution is? These silent wealth builders aren't who you might think. They're not lottery winners. They aren't professional athletes, and they definitely aren't celebrities. We're talking about everyday professionals in their 30s who are totally breaking the traditional mold: teachers, engineers, nurses, salespeople, and freelancers. In fact, studies frequently show that ordinary, everyday teachers are statistically way more likely to reach millionaire status than highly paid corporate executives or specialized doctors. These are everyday people quietly achieving financial freedom years, or literally decades before traditional retirement age. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, Rewiring Your Money Mindset. Before we get to the specific tactical steps of how they actually pull this off, we have to fundamentally change how we define the word wealth. Your mindset is the absolute foundation for everything that follows. Because if your definition of wealth is flawed, well, your financial habits are going to be flawed too. The ultimate mindset shift boils down to one incredibly simple truth: income does not equal wealth. It sounds super basic, but internalizing this changes absolutely everything. You can have someone earning $300,000 a year who is completely broke, living paycheck to paycheck with zero safety net just because their expenses instantly match their massive salary. Meanwhile, someone making $80,000 a year can quietly be becoming wealthy. Why? Because wealth isn't measured by what comes in. It's measured entirely by what stays.
Most people out there spend all their energy purely trying to increase their income. They think, oh, a raise is going to solve all my problems. Wealth builders, however, focus almost entirely on step one: increasing the gap between their income and their spending. That gap, that is the actual secret to the whole game. Because that gap becomes your savings in step two. And then those savings fuel your investments in step three, which ultimately, over time, creates your wealth. It's really just a mechanical process of capturing money and putting it straight to work.
So the crucial point here is what you actually do with that gap once you have it. Everyday wealth builders deliberately buy assets instead of liabilities. Think about it for a second. A luxury car constantly takes money out of your pocket. It depreciates the exact second you drive it off the lot. It needs expensive maintenance. It requires high insurance. It just drains your resources. But on the flip side, a dividend-paying ETF quietly sits there and puts money back into your pocket month after month. One literally costs you money, the other makes you money.
Let's look at a really visceral example to show how these everyday choices compound over time. Imagine two friends. They both work incredibly hard and boom, they both receive a $10,000 bonus at work. It's the exact same starting point for both of them, but they're about to make two very, very different decisions.
The first friend buys an all-inclusive luxury vacation. The second friend takes that exact same 10 grand and puts it directly into a broad market investment portfolio. 5 years later, that luxury vacation exists only in memories and maybe a few fading photos on a social media feed. But the invested capital, it has grown. It's weathered the market, generated dividends, compounded upon itself, and is actively working for that second friend 24/7. It so brilliantly illustrates the incredible power of compounding time over timing. You really don't need the perfect moment to start. You just need to start.
Let's move right along to Section 2, the Wealth Building Playbook.
So how does this build from a mindset shift into an actionable plan? Well, for starters, the days of relying on a single paycheck are completely over for silent wealth builders. They are developing multiple income streams to drastically reduce their financial risk and significantly increase the extra cash they can invest. This might take the form of a side business, managing some rental income, earning dividends from those ETFs we talked about, selling digital products online, or just doing freelance work on the weekends. Now, they still value and excel in their main careers, absolutely, but they flat out refuse to let a single salary be their only source of security.
And here's their massive advantage. While they're making more money through these additional streams, they completely give up the need to impress strangers. Looking rich costs money. Being rich creates money. While everyone else is eagerly spending their extra income trying to chase status symbols to show off, these folks are quietly building actual net worth. They might look completely ordinary, but their financial statements are extraordinary. And frankly, there's immense psychological relief and freedom in just no longer caring what the neighbors think of the car parked in your driveway.
Another major play in their tactical playbook is something called skill stacking. The absolute best investment you will ever make is usually the person looking back at you in the mirror. You don't have to be the absolute smartest person in the room at one highly specific specialized thing. Actually, scratch that. It's more like by combining multiple ordinary skills like basic sales, marketing, clear communication, a bit of technology proficiency, and a solid understanding of investing, you create truly extraordinary earning potential. Skills create opportunities, and those unique opportunities create income.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most overlooked tactics of all, utilizing tax-advantaged accounts like a 401k or a Roth IRA. I know, it sounds incredibly boring. It's not a flashy crypto play or an overnight startup success story. But taxes are easily one of the biggest single expenses you'll ever pay in your entire life. A boring small optimization, like legally reducing your tax burden through these government-provided accounts, has a massive, mathematically proven long-term impact on your accumulated wealth.
Then, once the tactics are in place, they put the whole shebang on autopilot. Systems beat motivation every single time. Listen, humans are inherently emotional creatures. We get distracted, we procrastinate, we desperately want to buy things on a whim after a stressful day at the office. The secret weapon of countless millionaires is removing human emotion from the equation entirely. Why rely on fleeting willpower when you can just rely on an algorithm? By automating your savings and your investments directly from your paycheck, the system does all the heavy lifting for you. You don't need to be highly disciplined if your systems make discipline completely unnecessary.
Next up, Section 3, Avoiding Silent Wealth Killers.
Now that we have the playbook, we really need to talk about defense. The biggest killer of them all is lifestyle inflation. This is exactly what happens when you finally get that well-deserved promotion or that annual raise, but your higher income immediately disappears because you match it with upgraded expenses. You get a raise, so you immediately move into a bigger apartment. You get a bonus, so you finance a newer, much more expensive car. Suddenly, you're making more money than ever before, but you are absolutely no closer to financial freedom. Wealth builders aggressively avoid this trap. When their income goes up, they direct that new money straight toward investments. That creates a powerful snowball effect rather than just a more expensive, stressful lifestyle.
Another really sneaky silent killer is the complete avoidance of risk. We naturally always ask ourselves, well, what if this fails? When we think about starting a new side hustle, making a major career change, or taking the plunge on a first-time investment. But true wealth builders reframe this risk entirely. Instead, they ask, what happens if I never try? They understand that avoiding all risk is actually incredibly dangerous because staying stagnant while inflation continually rises literally guarantees you'll fall behind. Wealth lives on the other side of calculated, intentional action.
Which brings us to Section 4, the tale of two friends. Let's pull all of this together into one final narrative. Imagine two 30-year-olds today. They have similar incomes, similar backgrounds, and similar opportunities right in front of them. Friend number one upgrades their lifestyle with every single raise and relies completely on a single paycheck. Friend number two totally avoids lifestyle inflation, consistently automates their investments, and spends their weekends building new skills. Now fast forward and track their divergence over time. At 5 years, the difference is noticeable. At 10 years, it's dramatic. At 20 years, they're living completely different financial lives. This is the sheer power of small investments, small improvements, and small sacrifices, repeated again and again.
And that brings us right back to the core thesis of this entire explainer. Wealth is built through ordinary actions repeated consistently. Buying a lottery ticket, chasing the hottest new stock, or trying to time the market, yeah, it feels incredibly exciting. But true wealth lives in the boring,
patient execution of the fundamentals. It's about ignoring all the noise of social media and just doing the work, month after month, year after year.
So I want to challenge you directly right now. What does this all mean for you? Which strategy will you start this week? Don't try to do everything at once. That is a fast track to burnout. Just pick one tactic we discussed today. Automate your savings by setting up a recurring transfer. Start learning a new marketable skill online. Find just one concrete way to reduce your lifestyle inflation. Pick one and execute it this week, because the perfect time to start is never going to arrive. Your financial future isn't determined by where you are today. It's determined entirely by what you do next. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.